Scully, I got a real problem with you.
What do you mean?
I mean, you're my only witness to this murder, and you're a peeper. In my book, that's a pervert and a sex offender.
Maybe you were trying to do a number on her head. Then why were you following Gloria Revelle?
Welcome to Now Playing Podcast Review of Body Double,
The Gone with the Wind of adult films.
a review chosen by Now Playing patron Ule Horve,
I'd like you to meet my favorite neighbor.
hosted by Jacob,
So, you're a genius.
Arnie,
You got a dirty mind.
and Stuart.
Guys, I think you're sensational. I think you're the best in the business.
But be warned, this episode will contain detailed plot spoilers and strong language.
Why are you interested in knowing?
We hope you enjoy the show.
All right, knock him dead.
Today, we're talking about Body Double, starring Craig Wasson, Greg Henry, Melanie Griffith, Deborah Shelton, directed by Brian DePalma. This is the Now Playing co-host who likes to watch movies, that is, Arnie.
And Stuart. This is Jacob, and I'm not just some fucking stunt cock. I'm a podcaster.
You can be both, I suppose, you know.
I said not just. Yes, I could still be a stunt cock.
Well, we have left the year of 1954 and we are now in 1984, 30 years later, but we are still talking Rear Window, kind of.
Yes, this is another pick by our patron, Ole, who is here with us. Ole, why did you pick Body Double to follow up Rear Window, other than the obvious similarities in the films?
Yeah, so a few years ago, I was watching a lot of De Palma movies, and Body Double was one of the ones I was looking forward to the most, as it was sort of De Palma's version of Rear Window, since I liked that movie a lot. And then I was left kind of disappointed by it, but I thought it would be interesting to hear what you guys have to say about it.
It's always interesting to me when somebody picks a movie for us to review that they don't love, you know? I mean, it's always risky to pick a movie you do love because we could just rip it to shreds. But to pick a movie that you were disappointed in for us to review, I find that really interesting.
Well, I'll hazard a guess that this movie will leave one with questions. It's probably worth it just to hear other people process what the hell is this movie.
Yeah, it's like Zardoz. Is that a good movie?
Yeah.
Would I recommend that? I don't know, but you got to see it. Like, it's something else, and I feel like this is in that same category. Like, I'm a newbie here, and this thing blew me away.
Am I the only one that saw it back in the day? I didn't see it in theaters, obviously. I was a child. But when it came on cable a couple years later.
Yeah, this is almost a porno.
Yeah, I saw it when I was just getting into like Fangoria and horror, and I thought I was going to watch a slasher movie. And I kind of did, but I didn't like it. I hated this movie when I saw it.
And this is one, I knew the name of it, but I can't say I knew much about it. Now Playing is really giving me an exposure to Brian DePalma that I didn't have before, you know? I knew him as a director, I knew him as a name, but this is my first time seeing Body Double.
Yeah, and not only is it giving me more awareness of who Brian DePalma is, but I'm finding out I like him. Like, the weird thing is, I came on record saying I hated him.
Yeah, you've been critical of him in the past.
Hated him. Yeah, I thought he was, well, I believe the hype. The hype on Brian De Palma was, particularly at this time, if we're looking at the 1980s, was all he does is steal great moments from other movies, usually Hitchcock movies, and passes them off as his own. He's a plagiarist. And, you know, I think we've moved on from that.
Yeah, Tarantino has educated us.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a difference between plagiarism and postmodern, curating and all that.
We can compare it to rap and sampling, right? So because you take the hook of something, it can still be a new song. It doesn't mean that you got away with stealing someone else's melody. But worth pointing out, in 1984, there weren't a whole lot of people that knew Rear Window. because Alfred Hitchcock, he had been dead about 4 years, but he owned it. He had made a deal. Some of his films were in his private collection, and so they didn't go out, and, Paramount couldn't put them in the revival houses. And to hear tell of it, it was in horrible states. When they went to the print, the negative, it just looked bad. AFI, the American Film Institute, had to spend a lot of money to restore Rear Window so that people could see it again. But fortunately, there was this new thing called Betamax, or maybe you buy VHS. There's a home rental system happening around this time that made it an incentive for people to take those old movies, restore them, and put them out again. So bad news for Brian De Palma. At the time he's putting out Body Double, people are now being told how great Alfred Hitchcock is and seeing the films that he references, and this is where he gets labeled that plagiarist. It's really this movie particularly, I think, that earned him that label.
Well, look, you keep calling out Rear Window, but there's a lot of Vertigo here. I wish we would have done a proper review of Vertigo before this, because I feel like that's in here. There's a shower scene. There's a little Psycho even, I think. There's a lot of Hitchcock in this.
I agree. There are probably, I counted at least 5 references to different Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, you know it better than me, so.
A very strong reference. I would say probably more Vertigo than Rear Window. Honestly.
I'd agree with that, yeah.
I agree.
We will talk about it in terms of Rear Window, and obviously, here's the thing. Rear Window and Vertigo are almost bookends. They are telling the same story in different ways. One story is Jimmy Stewart learning to share a vision with another woman, and the other one is Jimmy Stewart projecting his vision onto a woman that isn't real, that is a dead woman, that ends up destroying his life and hers. So they are both thematically very similar, and the fact that Jimmy Stewart is in both, and yeah, they have those Hitchcock qualities. So we'll talk about both as we go in. Arnie, you've seen Vertigo. Jacob, you know the movie.
Yes.
Yeah. I went back and rewatched it this week to help frame it. But we'll talk about both films and talk about where Brian De Palma is pulling from. But yeah, he was known for this, right? Dressed to Kill was Psycho. He likes to take the ideas, the setups of other things. Mission Impossible, that scene of Tom Cruise dropping down on a wire is from Rafifi. Most of what we love about Brian De Palma has roots in other movies. And does that make him a film archivist, a DJ remixer, or a plagiarist? I've moved away from the negative labels. At this point, I think Brian De Palma is smarter than he doesn't think he's getting away with stealing from the most famous director of all time and making a movie that no one will guess is Vertigo and Rear Window. I would almost say you almost need to see those films in order to appreciate what he's doing here.
Agreed. That's why I said we probably should have done Vertigo.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine watching this film without knowing those two as my reference.
And yet a large part of the viewing audience, I imagine, wouldn't have had that opportunity because it's not running on TV, because it's not playing in a movie theater for decades. So, there were revival houses. You could watch old movies, but Rear Window was in shambles until a few years after this. So I don't know how many people beyond the film critics would know when this thing opened Halloween weekend, 1984. Not surprisingly, it lost at the box office.
So they sold this as a slasher then?
Yeah, and it came out, it lost to Terminator, was the #1 movie of that weekend, and there was also a clip reel movie. They took all these great slasher movie kills and called it Terror in the Aisles and put that out just as a movie, just watch a bunch of slasher clips.
And that did better than this?
That was #2 at the box office. This opened in 3rd place. But it was the height of slashers. I do think that a lot of people were looking for that kind of entertainment. And I think this thing lost money because, they were sold something that it isn't quite. Or maybe it is. There is a killer guy with a giant drill putting it through a woman. So it's not a slasher. But if that's your mentality, if you want Friday the 13th, it didn't work for me back in the day when I was into that.
Yeah, this is a slasher if you think Psycho is a slasher, where you get one really gruesome death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll say that watching it this time as an adult with more patience than I had as a kid, I thought this movie was slow. I can't even imagine that I would have made it through this movie as a child or an adolescent.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I did, honestly. I know I saw some of it, but some of it, I don't know. Some parts stay with me.
It honestly depends at what age. If I was 13 to 16, I'd have stuck around for the boobies.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, let's find out what Brian De Palma did do in a plot. How similar is that to Rear Window? Well, let's get into it. Arnie, give us the story.
Craig Wasson is Jake Scully, a down-on-his-luck Hollywood actor who just lost his leading role lost his girlfriend, and lost his place to live. But a fellow member of Jake's acting class may have a solution, at least for the last one. This man, Sam Bouchard, played by Greg Henry, has been house-sitting for a rich friend. Sam is leaving town and offers Jake the chance to stay at his swanky abode in the Hollywood Hills. Not only is the house gorgeous and unique, but Sam is anxious to show Jake it's also a good spot for a Peeping Tom to watch a gorgeous neighbor undress. Each evening, this neighbor, Gloria, played by Deborah Shelton, does a topless dance that entrances Jake. Jake also notices he's not the only one watching Gloria. A Native American man is watching from a nearby rooftop. Once Sam leaves town, Jake starts to follow Gloria around during the day. The Native American snatches Gloria's purse and Jake gives chase. The Native American gets away but steals something from Gloria's purse. That night, Jake is watching Gloria at home when the Native American breaks in and starts to rob Gloria's apartment. Jake sees the Native American attack Gloria, so he races to help the woman, but when Jake breaks into Gloria's apartment, he's attacked by her German Shepherd. Jake is unable to get to her before the Native American kills Gloria, impaling her with a drill. After telling his story to Police Detective McLean, played by Guy Boyd, Jake goes back to the house and watches porn, as one does after seeing a gruesome murder. He sees one porn star, Holly Body, played by Melanie Griffith, doing a dance exactly like the one Gloria did each night. To meet Holly, Jake tries out for a porn film. After shooting his scene and his load with Holly, Jake pretends to be a porn producer offering Holly a movie. Jake gets Holly to admit she was hired by a man to impersonate Gloria. It wasn't Gloria doing the dance each night, it was Holly. And she was hired by Sam, who is secretly Gloria's husband. The whole point was to get Jake looking at Gloria's apartment nightly so Jake would be a witness to the murder. Holly, upset that Jake lied to her about being a producer, storms out of the house. She's picked up by the Native American, who knocks her out and goes to bury her alive. Jake gives chase and fights the Native American, who it turns out is Sam wearing a latex mask. Sam killed his wife and just wanted Jake to provide an alibi, but Jake has now learned too much. Sam tries to kill both Jake and Holly, but Jake fights back. Then Sam's dog, the same German Shepherd that attacked Jake earlier, knocks Sam into an aqueduct where Sam drowns. And we see at the end, Jake got his acting job back, and his girlfriend Holly watches from behind the camera as credits roll.
As we start, we're going to get a series of fake-outs. I think this movie is going to let you know the opening shot in any Hitchcock movie is always super important. Where you're trained in film school. Always look at what he does in the first scene and find the symbolism, find the metaphor for the movie in that image. And here, we have a man stuck in the ground playing vampire. We think it's just a cheesy horror movie, and it should be said Brian DePalma did make a few of those in the 70s. He's got a take on Phantom of the Opera called Phantom of the Paradise, a disco Phantom of the Opera that we should probably cover one day.
Yes, this sounds like yet another De Palma film I need to be introduced to for Now Playing.
It's something. Again, I hated it at the time, and now I want to see it again.
And you talk about De Palma ripping off other directors. I do feel like he's ripping himself off because he did another film in 81 called Blowout that he uses a horror movie as this framing device to kind of frame his message. And I was surprised to see him doing it here again with, this campy vampire film, whatever. This Vampire's Kiss, that's what blew me away, is when you find out this is the original Nick Cage film, Vampire's Kiss.
Yes.
What got me is the opening titles for this movie are all in this horror font. And what it's doing is pretending to be the opening titles for Vampire's Kiss, but it's confusing me as to what movie I'm watching because I thought I knew what movie I was watching. And it's not one that would have blood dripping down the letters and have the letters be all pointed in a gothic kind of horror movie font. And so it really threw me for a loop. Stuart, you're saying they sold this as a slasher and then it turned out not to be. And here, the opening titles are selling this as some kind of horror film that they're eventually, when we get to the title of Body Double, the font is going to change as the blood dries away, and it's going to just be a more standard, I don't know, my fonts, I'm not a graphic designer, is it Times? Something like that?
Times New Roman, yes. Who knows?
What are we watching? I think the movie asks us that continuously, and I think we're always kept on our toes about what exactly we're seeing, how to process, yes, what looks like a very bad, maybe late Hammer horror, like stinker, and then it becomes funny because the actor freezes, and he's suddenly crying and can't get out of there, and they have to, like, get grips to haul him out of this coffin, and we're introduced to, I don't know, what are we going to call this? Jimmy Stewart's broken leg? Or is this Jimmy Stewart's agoraphobia, his vertigo?
Yeah, I took it as his vertigo.
Stage fright is the name of an Alfred Hitchcock movie as well. Like, whatever we're calling this debilitation to our lead actor, it reads as a metaphor for sexual impotence. I mentioned in Rear Window that many people have written about the impotence that Jimmy Stewart has with the broken leg in a cast, and how that prevents him from interacting with both his woman and the mystery. I think that's also true here. This man will not be able to perform because we'll call it claustrophobia, I guess. But he can't perform either in his job or in his love life. We will see him go home and also be similarly unable to respond.
I like the deconstruction. I never saw this as a metaphor for sexual impotence on his part. I just saw it as his challenge to overcome in the movie is his claustrophobia. I took it far more as it was presented than going into the psychosexual analysis.
But it's really super important to understand that film critics love to do that with Alfred Hitchcock. And part of why he is so celebrated in that community is because they can read his dirty jokes. They can see the things that he's doing. You know, if you don't like that kind of thing, they've read into things that you don't think are actually there, but they find the innuendo. And so, again, Rear Window, to many scholarly film viewers, is the story of male impotence. Vertigo is impotence and projection as well. So DePalma knows that, and that he is going to put it in here, I think is very important.
It barely feels like subtext in here, though. Like the fact that a man is going to end up on a porno set and everything. Yeah, it becomes very explicit, but I think that is part of De Palma's aesthetic, is to make it sleazy. Take those classics, make it sleazy.
That said, he performs on the porno set, so, I mean, I just never see him have trouble with women other than his girlfriend at the beginning, which we'll get to.
Oh, he freezes. He has lots of trouble.
Yeah.
Again, what is a vampire but, a sexual predator? And the fact of the matter is that he's stuck here in this coffin. It's just a funny image, but it's also kind of freaky because you're like, what's going on? They hold on him so long. But yeah, he can't play the role.
I mean, he's doing a face that is worthy of Nick Cage in Vampire's Kiss.
Yes, he is.
That's why it's so funny, is you get that frozen, silly face for so long.
It's tremendous. And I'm also laughing. The first 20 minutes of this movie is a big joy for me due to all the familiar faces I'm going to see in it. I saw in the opening credits that Dennis Franz was in this movie. I assumed he was going to play a cop because Dennis Franz always plays a cop.
He always does.
But it turns out he's playing a film director here, and he's the one ordering them to lift Jake out of this coffin, and he's stiff as a board. I mean, they're able to lift him rather easily.
Not just playing a film director, this is a spot-on imitation of Brian De Palma. Dennis Franz had worked with him on Blowout and agreed to come back and do this for free because he's like, I want to parody you on screen. And yes, he lies to him.
So De Palma's a dick?
Yes, I do think this movie can and should be read, just as Rear Window can be read as a story about Hitchcock and his hang-ups. This is a story about Brian De Palma. Yes. Does he manipulate actors? He sends this Dennis Franz stand-in for him, sends the actor away, promising him, don't worry about it, we'll put you in the next shot, and meanwhile, he's going to recast him and not even give him a courtesy call. So, yes, is this the story of a director realizing that he is a manipulator? I think it definitely can be read that way.
So then Jake, not knowing he's just been fired, is going to go home after having a bad day at work. And I just knew this is where it was going. He's going to sneak in to surprise his girlfriend who's making moaning noises. I'm like, you're not going to like what you find. He's telling the Cocker Spaniel to be quiet. There's a neon Jake loves Carol sign in the apartment. That's gotta hurt. And he's going to find his girlfriend cheating on him. Did you guys recognize Barbara Crampton? I just watched Castle Freak, so instantly I had that facial recognition.
No, I did not.
When I saw her name in the credits, I connected her to Reanimator, but I wouldn't have known by face.
Oh, yeah, I knew her by face. I missed her name in the credits. And yeah, Reanimator would come out the next year. This was, I believe, her first acting role, and it's a very minor one. I don't think she says a single word. She just gets to ride a guy naked.
It's more about his reaction, right? Like, usually you walk in on your wife with a lover, you scream, you shout.
Yes, throw things.
But again, this is an actor, this is a man who is going to talk about how he clams up, can't perform the action that is necessary in work and in his private life. It's worth pointing out, Brian De Palma wrote this script with someone else, but this is one of the few times where he's writing a personal story, and he was going through a divorce at the time, that he and his leading lady, Nancy Allen, I don't know the details of why, but they had a falling out. And I wonder how much of this might be autobiographical.
Yeah, and while we're talking about the actors in here, Jake, we haven't even mentioned him, Craig Wasson. I know him only from one other role, and that's A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 we reviewed him in. He is Miss Langenkamp's boyfriend, Dr. Gordon, in that movie.
Yeah, I looked up his filmography because I don't know who this guy is. I recognize Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I knew Arnie, who he played. I don't remember. But yeah, the films that I had seen, I don't remember this guy. Who is Craig Wasson?
Weirdly enough, he will always hold a special place in my mind because he is the first actor I ever saw his penis on film. I could not think of a movie before. I didn't know you could show it. You know, in the 70s, there was lots of booby titty shots, but I saw the movie Ghost Story. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
No.
It was a popular horror book. Peter Straub was considered a contemporary of Stephen King, and then I guess he became less popular, but it was a big movie where all these old dudes, Bing Crosby and Douglas Fairbanks, are like this old ghost society who are being picked off one by the ghost of the woman they wronged. Well, Craig Wasson kicks off the movie. You'll forget all about the lady ghost because Craig Wasson falls out of a skyscraper completely buck naked with his ding-a-ling flapping in the wind for a good 5 minutes. And I was like, it was the biggest shock of the film.
Wow.
I got to see this now.
I remember kind of liking the movie as a whole, but that's the part that stayed with me the most of like, I didn't know you could show that in a movie.
Strangely, he doesn't show it in this one.
Right.
You'd think this is the one you'd show it in.
That's the funny thing, is obviously he would be very comfortable doing full frontal, and yet he's playing a character that is quite bashful. And yes, we'll talk about all these hang-ups. Are these Brian De Palma's hang-ups? I don't know enough about the director and his private life to know for sure, but I suspect that they are. I suspect that Brian De Palma is using Hitchcock techniques in the same way that Hitchcock movies are about Hitchcock, particularly Rear Window. I think that this is a movie about Brian De Palma, and I think it's interesting that he's framing himself as a man that's a peeping Tom, a voyeur, someone that, you know, maybe directs other people to do kinky things, but himself freezes up, almost a virgin.
Yeah, I do feel like this film is in part about that contradictions with voyeurs where they like to watch really seedy things, but maybe not get involved. Like that is their kink. That's what gets them off is the watching part. And yeah, if you want to watch something dirty, why don't you want to participate in that as well?
And part of Vertigo, it should be said, is that it is a very long setup for Jimmy Stewart. He is a police detective who has to leave the force because of his medical condition, because he has this acrophobia and gets vertigo every time he gets anywhere there's heights. He gets targeted by a man who wants him to spy for his wife, knowing that he won't be able to follow her up a flight of stairs that become important to the plot. Here, we're going to see this character be targeted in a series of acting auditions, that there's this fellow actor he keeps running into. And when he finally gets to acting class and reveals his claustrophobia problem, that's when he's going to become the bestie of Sam Bouchard.
This is a funny scene with the method acting teacher trying to get him to relive this moment that supposedly is a trigger or the cause of his claustrophobia when he was hiding behind a refrigerator as a child and got stuck. And he's saying, "I'm a sardine in a can," and this teacher yelling at him.
Brian De Palma did say this is straight up from his life.
This feels, very real. The way this instructor is like posing Jake and like almost looks like he's trying to relax him to help him come out. I don't know. There was something about that just felt like, oh, this is probably what actually happens in those kind of classes.
I mean, Brian De Palma was literally a 9-year-old child trapped behind a fridge.
And personally, I think Craig Wasson needs to spend more time in acting classes. I think he should have spent more time with this teacher trying to channel stuff because he's not good in this movie. He is the weakest link about this entire film, is that virtually every scene is going to feature him. He wasn't great in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 either, but he was on par with Heather Langenkamp. He did not outact Heather Langenkamp, and that's never a good thing to be said about an actor.
Why do you have a problem with him?
I hate to pull this argument, but isn't it probably intentional in this? Like, look at the role he's playing at the beginning. Like, I thought, oh, maybe he was a gay character, a gay vampire, the way that makeup is and everything. Like, it's just so emasculating. And yeah, this is an actor who is not successful. Like, so yeah, have an actor that's maybe a bad actor in real life because, yeah, that's what this movie's about.
I take umbrage with bad. I don't think he's a bad actor. I think, he's playing what he needs to.
Would you cast him as a leading man?
I would not.
The studio wanted real leading men, and it was a fight. It was De Palma fighting.
I was wondering why there wasn't one.
Yeah, they could have. I mean, it's worth pointing out, De Palma had just come off Scarface. He had worked with Al Pacino. Lots of people were lining up around the block to work with him, and he wanted kind of a known guy. He had made a few things. Ghost Story, Four Friends was kind of like a big chill movie that he was in. But he wanted an up-and-comer because that's who this character is. Someone that is struggling to stand out, but can't speak in his own voice. And I don't know, I buy him in this role. If you have a problem with the artificiality of it, I want to just draw attention to the fact that the movie is littered with those kinds of things. They will use rear projection.
Yeah, there's random blue screen shots. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a homage to Hitchcock. Remember the driving scene in Psycho, how that was rear projection? I thought that was intentional homage. I mean, this entire film is just dripping with Hitchcock, so that's what I thought the rear projection. But I don't remember Hitchcock hiring people who couldn't act and that being an homage to that.
Let me just put it this way. I don't think Jimmy Stewart's performance in Vertigo is natural. It's a very artificial and very counter to his movie image. He's a real creep and a kind of a scary dude by the end of that movie. He is playing against type.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't know. We could have a long discussion about movie acting. I think Craig is fine. I think what's weird about it is we don't know this guy and his hang-up is weird. We just don't understand him. We can't relate to this guy. And why would Sam want to be his best bud? Obviously, it's a setup. I think the movie audience knows long before Jake does that he is being set up as a patsy.
See, this opening, the way it plays is Jake is talking to another friend of theirs, like this mutual friend of him and Sam. And I got the impression, falsely, that he knew Sam for a while. There's the moment where the teacher asks Sam, are you even in this acting class? But I assumed he was in the acting class. So I didn't get that this was a setup at the beginning. I thought these two guys knew each other for a while. And it wasn't until later in the film that I realized, okay, this was a setup. I mean, they're going to show us flashbacks and point it out, obviously, later in the film. But at the start of this film, I think these two are buds.
I didn't think they were buds, but in Hollywood with these actors, I mean, you make contacts. And so, yeah, they had shared a class together or maybe tried out for the same role. I thought they had some passing knowledge of each other. Not that they were friends, though.
Let me help you out. We have 3 quick scenes.
Yeah.
We have a scene of him going to the Shakespeare Festival and a mutual friend, someone that knows both of them, going, hey, I want you to introduce you to Sam. And then later at a totally different audition, they see each other and they are like, hey, how are you? Without really knowing each other, but they recognize each other. But this guy is then tagged along because he was listening to a conversation about acting class. He's tagged along to that class. Keep in mind, Sam has an ulterior motive. He is trying to find someone, an actor, who is going to freeze up, that will be a witness, the perfect witness to the crime he's about to commit.
And I'll say this for Sam, I went back and rewatched this opening stuff again because the first time I watched this, I felt like maybe you a little bit, Arnie, with Rear Window, where you're like, let's get to the murder stuff. Let's get to that exciting stuff. Forget all this boring setup. And like, I was kind of feeling that because the acting of Craig Wasson was not gripping me, as we've talked about. So yeah, I went back and rewatched this opening because I'm like, I feel like I was kind of just tuning out because I'm like, yeah, let's get to the Rear Window murder stuff this time. And so you do pick up, like, yeah, you see Sam kind of eavesdropping at the beginning and moving himself in. But the first time I watched this, I'm like, oh, this is just someone he kind of knows.
Yes, who stands up for him, who seemingly interrupts this embarrassing class exercise, which is a joke on method acting, that he's being pushed into his trauma as a way of being a better actor, and it's not working for him, and he's just being humiliated in front of the class. Sam is the only one to call this out and take him out for a drink, and this is where, again, the sexual subtext comes up. He talks about how Carol cheated on him, and all he can focus on, not that she cheated, but that she was glowing, right? That this guy, whoever it was, and we never even saw who she was with, was screwing her better than he ever had.
And did you guys recognize Sam from anything? I know him from only one role, but it was influencing my view of Sam. He was Peter Quill's grandfather in Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 3. He's the one who gave Peter Quill the audio cassette.
Oh, okay. The Earthling grandfather, not Kurt Russell. Okay.
Yeah, the Earthling grandfather. At the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 3, they're eating cereal together.
Yeah, okay. I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah, I don't think you would necessarily recognize him. You recognized him?
There's a lot of decades in between those films.
I looked it up and saw his name and looked up what he did. He had worked with DePalma, is why he has this role.
Okay, I didn't know him from anything else, but I recognized his face from Guardians. There was something about that hairline. It has receded further, but there was something about that just... Plus, I watch Guardians a lot more than you guys do, so...
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. But you know he's the bad guy, right? I mean, even if you didn't have the...
No.
You know Vertigo. And you know the setup is an old friend hires Jimmy Stewart as the fall guy for the murder he's planning. That doesn't occur to you as he's walking him to the chemosphere?
I saw Vertigo once and I forgot that twist.
And I'm thinking Rear Window so far. There's a point where I switch over and go, oh, this is Vertigo. But so far, I'm like, oh, this is a clever twist on Rear Window. Like, yeah, we're not going to do the broken leg thing, but we're going to go to this cool UFO Hollywood Hills house. And yeah, he's a Peeping Tom. So I'm not necessarily thinking Vertigo yet, so I don't suspect Sam. I'm like, okay, he's just helping a dude out.
That Hollywood Hills house, is that a real house? Because
yeah,
I love it. The fact that you have to take this like gondola to get up to it. It looks like a freaking Ewok village stuck up in a tree, I swear.
I don't know if it's still around, but it is a real house.
It's on the valley side, but it's in the Hollywood Hills for sure. It's off Mulholland Drive. There's a lot of cool houses.
I just wonder if all the rain and landslides and fires have taken them out.
It could have slid down. That is true. Yeah, it's not a great idea to build those kinds of houses, but it sure looked cool. I remember, going around in my tourist days, checking out the architecture. It's a very cool place. They didn't film inside it, obviously. That's all soundstage, but the exteriors are all a real house. And ironically, the house that they're looking at is on the other side of the valley. There is not a cool mansion.
There's a mountain between them.
Yeah, you would not be able to see the woman dancing from the chemosphere, but that's the name of that house.
That's very cool house. I couldn't believe that that's where he was getting to house sit. It's like a dream thing. I mean, after everything's gone wrong for Jake so far, this is a tremendous thing. It's very 80s, the inside, which, as you say, I could tell was a soundstage.
I want a rotating bed, and it's 2024.
Yeah, but there was a lot of pink neon going on in that apartment or that house.
Yeah, jacuzzi, sauna, full bar, and telescope. Yeah, this is where we get to Rear Window. This is where we realize that, yes, if you're going to be stuck house sitting, watering plants all day, maybe you're just going to be captivated by what the neighbors are doing. We're only really going to focus on this one neighbor, and only because Sam directs him, tells him every midnight, like clockwork, you got to watch this girl.
Yeah, this Peeping Tom stuff, I think it might have played a little bit better in the 80s than it does today, because now I just look at both of them like creepers for watching a naked lady through a telescope.
But why wouldn't you? I mean, I don't think we're not supposed to judge them. That's the point. You were supposed to think that about Jimmy Stewart. It plays exactly as it always would play. Yes, if you were the guy and you were sexually titillated, and by the way, you're used to not acting on your sexual arousal, this might be the perfect setup. But yes, to the audience, and that's the doubling that happens. To Jake, he thinks he's the hero watching after this poor woman, but he's actually no different than the creepy guy with the big drill.
When Jake is watching Gloria dance, the score that plays, there's, a good score in this movie, but I got really distracted. And I doubt if anybody else noticed this, but there's an electronica in the back of the music.
Yeah, almost like heavy breathing. Yeah.
And it goes
Super Mario Brothers?
Donkey Kong Jr.
Oh, okay.
It is the theme to Donkey Kong Jr. playing during the score, and it is distracting the living hell out of me.
I don't know. It's the 80s. Arcades were popular.
Yeah, and you say Gloria dancing, but this is not Gloria dancing. We will find out that this is the debut, which she comes into the movie really, really late, but she's here in this scene in a wig doing her famous dance. This is Melanie Griffith. Now, it should be said, Brian DePalma, in writing this movie, worked with an actual porn star, wanted to cast an actual porn star. Columbia Pictures, owned by the Coca-Cola company, said absolutely not. We are not in the business of promoting such an industry.
I read he wanted full penetration on this. Like, he was bragging this was going to be the first film with, like, real sex, not simulated sex.
Yeah. Here's what I understand. To understand his mentality, and I did listen to some supplemental materials, after Scarface took such a beating by the MPAA, he wanted to get back at them. He wanted to make a film that was so outrageous and that was so offensive, they would have no choice but to give it an X after all the battles about Scarface trying to get an R rating. And so, yes, I'm going to get a porn star and we're going to do all these extreme things. Some of the dialogue later that Holly says,
I can't believe some of the dialogue later,
comes straight from her educating Brian DePalma on what she would and would not do professionally. And when they couldn't get her, I think they went with Melanie Griffith because she's the daughter of Hitchcock royalty, right? Tippi Hedren, her mom, was the star of The Birds and Marnie. So this is a way of getting back to Hitchcock, having Melanie Griffith do this strip dance, who was pretty early in her career at this point. This could have ruined her career, quite frankly, doing something so racy. And yes, introduced here, pleasuring herself while removing jewelry and putting it in a wall safe.
Yeah, this did feel like some kind of weird setup because I'm like, why is she just dancing naked by herself, like as a regular routine where you could just go to your telescope and watch? Like, that seems suspect to me.
I thought it was obvious. I didn't think there would be a person watching this that wouldn't think that Sam is directing this guy to look at something that isn't real.
Yeah, no, I catch on, I think, pretty early something's up, but Sam was not my suspect.
Okay.
No, and this movie took me on its ride. I did not realize that this was a setup on Sam's part. I mean, in fact, when it's revealed to be Sam, I was shocked.
What? Wow. I can't even, wow. How different an experience the movie must be then to see it that way. Because I feel like it's pretty easy to guess that this dweeby little guy that can't act, quite literally, you're saying, is being set up here. But not as the murder suspect. The thing that I always struggle with is why would Sam want Jake to see this? Because on the next night, he is going to create a fantasy person to be the killer rather than kill his wife. We will find out that Sam is the owner of that mansion, has the money to rent out the Chemisphere, to spend his days searching through auditions to find the perfect people, and he is orchestrating a murder on his wife that will be blamed on, you said the Native American, but the word used is Indian. And I just want to point out that it is a major subplot in The Man Who Knew Too Much that one character is wearing brownface as an East Indian. So I'm not sure if he's supposed to be Native or East Indian.
And I was going to ask that because, yeah, we see this. I wrote him down as the welder until they call him out as the Indian later because we see him. It looks like he's welding a satellite dish or something in front of that home.
And he does that, of course, to draw attention to a guy with a telescope because why would he look?
Yes. And you see this face. He doesn't look Native American to me. They're calling him Indian. Maybe it's a racist thing. But to me, I'm like, oh, that's obviously latex.
Yeah, it's obviously Sam.
I actually thought, oh, maybe Jake is going to actually be the killer. And like the one looking through the telescope is like his imagination of his innocent self or something. Because I thought this was obviously a mask the guy is wearing.
Well, again, Rear Window and Vertigo and several Hitchcock movies are about projection. Vertigo particularly is a really dark story about how what we fall in love with, what we see, is really projections of ourselves, and we actually don't see the woman in our life, that she doesn't even exist and has to play this role for the man is, really creepy and sad. And yes, that could be a reading here, but I don't think the makeup effects in this are very good. I think it's really obvious that Sam says, okay, okay, I'm going to go to Seattle now. And the next thing you know, you see a guy with Sam's build. You know it's latex, right? You know that that's someone wearing a mask.
Yeah, it was obviously a mask.
Well, obviously that has to be Sam.
Sam is a nobody to me, though.
I didn't realize Sam was this muscular because the Indian, whatever Indian it is, looked more muscular to me. I could tell he was wearing latex, but I thought it was just trying to make whoever the actor was look disfigured or scarred in some way. Yeah, I mean, I don't have to say it anymore. I didn't know it was Sam until Holly Body reveals it's Sam.
I think you're in a minority. I think most people watching this would know that and would be ahead of this game. That Sam is setting up the idea that, again, to Jake, that there's this dangerous, creepy, peeping Tom. He doesn't even see that this is himself, but there's this peeping Tom that's outside this woman's house, and I've got to protect her.
Yeah, and I thought this was a nice twist, a nice remix of Rear Window, where that was Jimmy Stewart in a wheelchair. He couldn't get around, and he's looking through each of those individual windows. I love how this plays out as a new spin on that story where, yeah, Jake is going to go and follow her around, and always see this shady figure in the background. Is that his imagination? Is he real? I think this is really fun how it plays out.
Body double. This is his double, right? Sam is the opposite. One man is trying to save this woman. And keep in mind, the word save even has connotations of virginity and not touching her. And then you have this guy that's going to drill her and get her. And it really
penetrate her.
It exemplifies the metaphor of a man who wants to sexually perform but can't.
Now, this is where the movie really drags for me, is when we have Jake following Gloria through a mall, watching her try on panties. I get the point. I think DePalma could have probably edited this down and gotten the same point across. We don't need quite this much stalking, do we? It's the same message nailed home again and again.
I'm going to disagree. I think as far as being effective about telling a story about snooping bad, voyeurism bad, I think this is great. When he's just staring at her in that dressing room from outside, that is a long scene. And I will say, Craig Wasson here, he does seem like a real luring creep. Maybe that's why you get this guy. It works here.
Again, I like his performance. I do think he's a creepy guy that doesn't realize he's a creep.
Yes.
In his mind, he's the hero running to save this woman, but to anybody else, the cop later, he's like, you got her panties in your coat pocket.
Yes.
This is not a hero of any traditional story. And that was also true for Jimmy Stewart in Vertigo. Less true in Rear Window. His snooping, I thought, again, without Grace Kelly, I think Jimmy Stewart would have looked a little bit more perverse, a little bit more suspect in Rear Window, but she kind of made him honorable. And so, again, my reference point is much more Vertigo here. In terms of this sequence, it is a repeat. De Palma essentially did this in the art museum, if you remember Dressed to Kill. There is a very long sequence of Angie Dickinson leaving behind a glove and a man propositioning her, and will she do a one-night stand, and she's offended, and then she's attracted. All of that, I thought, worked really well. This is less successful, but I do think it's got a real suspense to it. I mean, it's really exciting because of the wide shots, right? Because we can look out through all of the Rodeo Drive Mall and see the killer running down the escalator while she's getting in the glass elevator. And what is Jake going to do? Yeah, all this interplay where he gets into that coffin again, right? He finally corners her and freezes up. He can't speak to her until it fills up with people in the elevator.
And yeah, that's where the claustrophobia kicks in, because he was about to speak to her. He opened his mouth to speak.
Yeah, and all those people start coming in.
Yeah, and that's when he starts to have his freak out.
And this is where it kind of dashes my theory that Jake is actually the killer, that he's the one actually creeping around, because when the Indian approaches that elevator, you can hear people saying, oh, look at that guy. So I'm like, okay, that guy is real now. It's been confirmed. Other people are seeing him.
I didn't even hear that. But yeah, I do think you could have a Fight Club reading to this movie for the first half.
I was going with that for quite a while.
I definitely think that you could think that this guy sees a man that isn't there and he is that creep. And in a way, metaphorically speaking, I think the movie is about that. But yeah, in Vertigo, here's the trick. In Vertigo, the woman being followed knows she's being followed and is performing, is pretending to be possessed by this ghost of this long lost woman, but in fact has been instructed to do so. I I'm wondering, watching this movie, when she leaves the panties, is she leaving it for Jake? Like, is she intentionally luring him to this beachside motel? It feels almost performative the way that she is, luring him along on her journey.
Yeah, I was wondering why she just threw away those new panties she bought, or maybe those are her old ones. She kept the new ones on, but that stuck out. And then later on, she's going to say, yeah, I know I'm being followed. Now, maybe that means I think you're the one following me, Jake, but like she's going to have that line.
Yeah, I'm glad she knew he was following her because he's following pretty close behind. And
yeah.
It seems pretty obvious. This guy, he doesn't look innocuous. And if you kept seeing him, he got on the elevator with her, I would think she would know he's following her. But yeah, I wasn't sure why she threw the panties away either. I kind of took it as she was wearing the new ones. Jacob?
Yeah, that's how I kind of read it.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah, she is getting prepared. Let's dig into what we can know about her life. And it should be said, we don't know too much about why the man killed his wife in Rear Window, other than he had a woman on the side. Here, she seems to be the one cheating. We have a moment with her at a payphone where she calls her lover and says, my husband hit me again. And we did have a scene when he was...
So that was her husband. I was wondering if that was like a pimp with Melanie Griffith in disguise. It's a weird scene.
They're all Sam. It should all be said that the husband is Sam.
Yeah.
Is the Indian. But yes, he is really married to that woman and very angry that she is obviously cheating with at least one other guy.
Is that what he's mad about? I thought he was the gold digger. She was the one that owned the wealth and he wanted it.
Well, yes, but I take it to mean, let me just put it this way. She knows she's being followed and she thinks her husband is having him follow her. That because he doesn't trust what she's about to do, because she steps out so much.
I didn't get that reading. I wasn't quite sure. I felt like there was a lot of ambiguity.
There is.
In her and who she was calling and all of that.
Well, we know that she wants to meet someone and she bought new panties to show them at a beachside motel. So she has a lover. I'm comfortable in saying she is stepping out on her relationship and her husband is abusive. He slapped her in one of the bedroom scenes. Jake was watching way after the dance sequence. I don't know how they would know, but that is Sam with Gloria and not with Holly when she's hit on the bed. There is only 2 scenes with Melanie Griffith dancing, and the abuse scene is with the wife. So she's a battered wife, cheating and knowing that she could get caught, and thinks that's what's going down.
It's pretty ballsy of Sam, looking like Sam, to go into that apartment and beat Gloria where Jake could be watching, because it's just luck that he didn't see Sam's face.
No lighting. Again, it's very dark in there and he knows the light levels. We can assume that he adjusted them as such. And he makes a point. I really like this detail on second watching. I watched this movie twice this week, is that if you look, when he's introducing him to the telescope, all you see is the woman dancing. You're looking at her body. You're not looking at her face. You can't. It's dark. And then Sam tells Jake, oh, did you see how gorgeous she is? Look at her face. That's so the next time he is looking at her face and will think that it's Gloria. That is the trick. This fantasy woman, again, that is in Jake's head almost doesn't exist. And Brian DePalma plays into that because he has Melanie Griffith play her part of the time. And he has another actress dub Gloria's voice. So she's almost like this dream woman that, again, you can't assign one woman to this performance. There's almost 3 women playing one obsession.
I wasn't sure. I saw on Wiki that Helen Shaver did Gloria's voice. I just wondered if Deborah Shelton wasn't a very good actress, and that's why they did the voiceover.
No. Trust Brian DePalma does everything for a reason. Just as like Hitchcock does everything for a reason. There's a meaning behind that stuff. It's not just like, if she wasn't good, he wouldn't have cast her. He got her and wanted, again, thinking about Vertigo and the layers and layers of the woman that Jimmy Stewart is in love with. Again, we haven't covered that movie, so I don't want to get in too deep. But he thinks she's one thing and she's actually a woman playing another thing. And none of it is, or all of it is real. Again, know that is the story of Vertigo that is retold here in Body Double. Now that we're at the beach side, she's mad her lover's not coming. She storms out to the beach tents and we have a purse snatching. We see that the Indian comes running and grabs her purse. This is Sam luring Jake into a tunnel. Again, sexual innuendo. He can't go in the tunnel. He's freezing in the tunnel.
Yeah, and it's when he runs into that tunnel and freezes, and yeah, you see the Indian running off. I'm like, oh, this is Vertigo. All of a sudden, this is what it hit me, that they're doing the Vertigo thing, because I'm thinking of Jimmy Stewart can't run up the stairs to save the woman. Like, it's that same type of thing here.
Mm-hmm. I got vertigo from the following of the woman and all of that. I was thinking vertigo, and yeah, here with the tunnel and just the claustrophobia. And it took me some rumination after the movie, but I was like, what we're going to find out is that this Indian has stolen something from her purse, and we're going to find out that what he stole was a key card to her apartment. And I was thinking after the fact, well, why does Sam need a key card to her apartment? He lives there. He obviously has a key card, but this is setting it up so that there's an excuse as to why
the mysterious Indian did it.
Yes, why the Indian could get in there. And I'll say, here was my thought process at this point. I knew there was going to be a killing in this movie at some point, that Gloria was going to die. I figured at this point that the Indian was going to do it. I thought the Indian was an assassin hired by the abusive husband, who I did not realize to be Sam.
Okay. All right.
I just didn't realize they had key cards this early on, because I'm like, he just took one credit card? Why not take them all? But no, it is a key card to that fancy mansion.
Was it not distracting you that he was wearing latex?
I thought he was supposed to be disfigured or scarred.
Yeah. That was not a mystery. It seemed like a mask.
You just thought that it was made to make him look monstrous.
Yeah.
Okay. Although, sort of. Yeah, again, it's this phantom character. We can call him the Peeper, we can call him the Indian, but yes, what Sam is doing is setting up more and more reality that this was a man who stole a key card, broke in to get her safe because he had watched her put jewels in the safe, and then killed her because she walked in on him. That it was a crime of accident in the middle of a burglary, when in fact, it's a husband mad at a wife for cheating and killing her for that.
And it's in this tunnel where I really judge Craig Wasson, is his acting as claustrophobic. I found myself being that method acting teacher screaming at the screen, act, because he is doing no better in a real claustrophobic situation than he was doing on that stage. I feel like Craig is giving the exact same performance in both cases.
I hear you judge Craig, but he's giving the performance DePalma wants, and he's giving the performance Jimmy Stewart gave in Vertigo. So if you don't like it, tell me more about why you don't like it, because it doesn't feel real?
It doesn't feel real. It feels both over-exaggerated.
Well, yes.
And also desperate. It just, I feel, is outside of the range of this actor who his every line delivery feels similar to me.
No, it's comedic. I mean, to me, he's doing a comedy performance. Once you're in on the joke, this is a funny scene. Once you already know what's happening, this is not a thriller at all. This is hysterical, and that's how Wasson is playing it.
I mean, when he finally gets out of that tunnel with Gloria and they have this big kiss and this is his imagination, his fantasy. He goes into full old school Hollywood mode with this turning camera and the artificial backgrounds and everything, this big sweeping romance going on.
This is literally from Vertigo.
I thought this was all in his head. I thought for sure we were going to come out of it and realize it was a fantasy, but I guess he really is making out with her.
Maybe. I don't think you're necessarily wrong, Arnie. I mean, I think here's what I'm wanting you to think about, because I definitely think it's true in Vertigo and probably true here. We can no longer be sure between the subjective and objective reality. That the way that Jake is seeing things is blurring the distinction, and we can't know what's real. Obviously, that what we're watching is not real. And yeah, the actors shot this on a turntable with rear projection. Of course, they could have filmed it at the beach, but they did this to heighten the artificiality of all of that. Is this guy imagining it? I think he's imagining her saving him. You know, he was trapped in this tunnel and she's going to come there, but it's like Vertigo, but with more groping. In the end, like he's still pulling her shirt off.
Yeah, I feel like as this movie goes along, it becomes more and more subjective. You could really trust less and less what you're seeing from Jake's perspective.
Which is Vertigo all over. I mean, I just want to insist that is the point of Vertigo, is that Jimmy Stewart forces his perspective on a woman and won't see the truth. But yes, let's get to the kill scene, because this is the most Rear Window the movie will get, is that we have this, it's a mansion, but it feels like that apartment complex from the 1954 film. Every room gets lit up as she comes home, and the dog is there, and yeah, we get a phone call. It should be said, they try to do a fake out. Sam is calling Jake while he's at the telescope, and as soon as he hangs up, there's the Indian with the largest drill I've ever seen.
That's a ridiculous drill.
Going to work on that wall safe.
I thought it was a jackhammer at first.
Yeah, they apparently bought it at Sears, and it apparently is real. The actress says, if I look scared, it's because I was terrified that they were going to actually puncture me with it. And like Psycho, we never see that blade go into her.
No.
A lot of it is done in the same way as the shower scene. We'll have this very extended moment with Jake finally trying to get over. Again, if the metaphor is that I can't act, I can't speak, I can't reach out, he calls her, and she's being choked from behind by the phone cord wire. Yeah, he's going to make a mad dash to try and save her life while she's going to try to get away. And, you know, what feels like an obvious... This is where I feel like a lot of people could be lost by this movie. It's so ridiculous, this fight sequence in the bedroom. It's so over the top, melodramatic, that, you know, if you were looking for a Friday the 13th gory kind of kill, this is kind of funny.
And this is coming at almost exactly the 1 hour mark. And this is where I feel the movie actually starts to kick in. I knew Gloria was dead meat from the beginning of this film. Just, I knew nothing about this movie coming in other than it was De Palma's version of Rear Window, but I knew there was going to be a murder. This is why I feel it just takes too long to get to this scene.
You weren't thinking of Vertigo at all at this point?
Oh, I was.
The woman definitely dies, you know, like, but it's the same time frame. The woman goes up the stairwell of the bell tower and falls around the same time in this movie that this woman is going to get drilled in her bedroom.
And I want to compliment the makeup, because you guys are saying it's obvious that this is Sam. We're going to get some full light shots of this man, this attacker here. I don't see that actor's face, and I'm the one who recognized him from Guardians.
Wow. I mean, it's so obvious. So obvious.
I disagree.
Stuart, you talk about how over the top and violent this is. I thought that was kind of the point. Maybe this is a sophomoric thing to do in film at this point. But yeah, to say, oh, you want to see the sleaze and the murder and all that gore, like, I'm going to lock you in the room with the whole carton of cigarettes to make you smoke instead of just like the one. Like, this feels like I want to punish you. And yeah, but it's great. Like the way Gloria falls down behind the bed. So you never see that drill go into her. You just see it go down. And then you see that drill come through the floor and drip blood. Is that a cum shot? I don't know. Like, we'll talk a lot about cum shots in a little bit, but yeah, this does feel like the sex that Jake could never have.
Yeah, upstairs in the bedroom, shot through the legs. You know, with the comedy, though, again, I think it gets unplugged before it can get her at first.
Yeah, it gets unplugged and he's got to play. That feels like Looney Tunes.
Yes.
That does seem funny. I couldn't believe they went for that. But yes, I did notice that it came down like a giant phallus between his legs.
I'm watching the scene now as someone that has processed Vertigo, Rear Window, Hitchcock, and De Palma in general, and I'm seeing it very much as a comedy. That may seem weird to you, but I'm laughing at the scene. I don't know if you guys are experiencing it as a thriller or not. I do not experience this movie as a thriller.
I take it straight as a thriller.
Oh, to me, it feels like it's supposed to be comedic.
Yes.
There's something subversive here because, yeah, the plug coming out and all that, I feel like I'm supposed to laugh.
I can guess the twists, and they're not that hard to guess, and it's just silly to watch that big a drill get unplugged, and then, like, she faints and hits her head and is knocked out, and then he faints and hits his head and he's knocked out, and then the dog downstairs. All of it, to me, is making me laugh a lot, and I think that's okay. I think either way you want to take it, comedy or thriller, that's the double play here, but I think either one Brian De Palma is fine with, but for me, this only plays as comedy.
I wish I'd seen it as a comedy because it plays as a mediocre thriller.
Yeah, no, it's not a great thriller, but I do, again, as this movie goes on, it's just going to get wackier and wackier. And yeah, it starts here with this death scene, this murder scene.
Yes. So what has happened is Jake has actually run into action and solicited two joggers to take off their Walkmans and join him, run into this house.
Which is a twist I didn't see coming because I thought for sure Jake was going to be the suspect, that Jake was going to be seen as the murderer.
I'm right there with you.
And the fact that there were two joggers as witnesses, I'm like, well, that gives him a good alibi then.
Yep.
That's exactly right. That takes me a very long time. I don't think I got it until my last viewing that like, oh, he's not taking the fall for this murder. They just want to establish him as a credible witness. He was watching all the time. He was watching intently. And so he would know that there is this mythic Indian character drilling into the safe and stealing the jewels. Otherwise, that sounds far-fetched. As the cop that comes riding in says, McLean, normally we just look at the husband, right?
Yes.
Wife is dead, gotta be the husband. It's usually how it goes. But now, because of your story, we're looking for an Indian.
But I do like that the cop calls him out for being a pervert and having those panties in his pockets and all of that. The cop is not happy that this is his witness. He's been committing crimes. Peeping Tom, that is not legal. That is something the cop points out to Jake.
He even goes so far as to say Gloria is dead because of you. And I had to think, is that true? Would Sam have killed his wife if no one was looking? I guess he feels like he needs to have the witness corroborate this third suspect they'll never find.
Yeah, he would have had to find another Jake if he didn't get Jake.
Yeah, someone had to be looking in order to see him dressed up in this ghoulish Halloween latex and create this phony attack. But I don't know. I'm not with you. The makeup's so bad, I figure Gloria knew it was her husband as he was coming at her with the drill.
And Arnie, you say, who watches porn after a murder? Well, when we get to the 70-minute mark here and we get Jake spitting on that bed, just pouring and playing on the TV, to me, this is like that moment in Rear Window that I talked about where Grace Kelly has that turn. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm so into this. Like, this is the same acting as Grace Kelly, but like, it is just so bizarre. And I felt like, oh, this is a movie about voyeurism. So like, okay, I may have seen a murder, but like, let me just move on to my next visual. Like, I kind of understand, like, yeah, if you just want to watch porn after a murder, if you are a filthy pervert voyeur, like, this kind of makes sense. And like, all of a sudden, when we go into this whole adult film industry, like, it is such a left turn out of nowhere. Like, it really grabs me. And whereas I'm like, yeah, this is kind of a good movie. Now, all of a sudden, I'm like, I want to see where this is going.
I agree with you, Jacob. This is where the movie starts to grab me. It's taken a long time to get to where it is, and now it's not the nudity, but I'm really interested in where is this film going.
It's such a bizarre way to go, though.
The thing is, I know Gloria is going to get killed, so it took me a while to get there. But now I'm like, where is this movie going? What is going on with Melanie Griffith doing this dance in a porno? First of all, that is one lame single X-rated porno if it's just a star dancing alone to some music topless.
I mean, this is when the number of X's meant something, so that would be like a 1X.
I just want to offer something. This is playing on regular television, and it used to be in major markets.
I was wondering, is this like late night?
Local access.
Okay, yeah, public access TV.
Yeah, you watch late night local access in New York or LA, you could see porn, and they would have these kinds of adult entertainment there. That's just what's on at 1 o'clock in the morning is the way I take it. Not necessarily that Jake, although you could read it that way, that Jake, after watching the exhilaration of murder, is sexually aroused.
That's how I was kind of reading it, so I was just like fascinated by this point.
Either way works, but I think it's just also what happens to be there. And yes, Holly does Hollywood, the Gone with the Wind of X-rated film.
The Gone to the Wind of adult films.
Yeah, endorsed by Screw Magazine. Yes, this is where we first can recognize Melanie Griffith is in this movie. We have this shot.
Which is crazy because I thought this was a Melanie Griffith film. Like when my wife asked me, what are you watching? I'm like, Body Double. She's like, oh, the one where Melanie Griffith is a porn star. Like she knew it. And so the whole time I'm like, oh, this is all about Melanie Griffith. Where is she? And then, 70 minutes in, she finally shows up. I guess I didn't realize she was the one dancing earlier, but here we finally recognize her.
I laugh out loud, though, because what he's watching is an ad for Holly Does Hollywood, and it's like, get it at Tower Records. Like, that is
I mean, yeah, no, you could get porn at Tower Records. Like, that was normal.
Not only that, but this is the turning point, right? 1984, you don't have to go to the porn theater anymore.
You could rent it, yeah.
And that is how this good guy is going to do it. He couldn't go into the Porn X Palace, but he could go to Tower Records, go to the back room, and get a VHS copy. And that's how he's going to replay the dance scene and know that the moves are identical to Gloria's nightly routine. It has to be the same woman.
I was absolutely shocked at the amount of nudity Melanie Griffith does for this movie. I did not recognize that she had bared so much skin in film.
Yeah, again, I knew her for this. Again, this is probably the first time that I've seen her in a movie, but yes, it is risky. If you were trying to have a legitimate acting career, if your mother was Hollywood royalty and worked with Hitchcock, would you make this movie? I don't know. Obviously she did it. No one was talking too much about it other than saying we tried to make Melanie as comfortable as possible and that she had a lot of problems with what she was being asked to do, but got through it. But this is Vertigo. I mean, again, you keep saying Rear Window, but...
Oh no, I'm in full Vertigo mode by this point.
Yeah, absolutely. The body double.
Rear Window is the story of a man who thinks he's seen murder but can't prove it. This murder is real. No one is thinking that it hasn't happened. What he is doing is projecting on a strange woman the idea that the dead woman is still alive. And that is the plot of Vertigo.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think he was crazy, is I guess my question, as we see him suddenly start to audition for porn movies and try to get closer to her?
I thought this movie was going weird places. I didn't know if he was crazy or what was going on. The entire scene of him auditioning for the porn and then the scene in the porn that happens next, the Frankie Goes to Hollywood music video, is just, it's surreal in a good way. I'm like laughing, but I'm also just not sure what I'm supposed to take as reality here.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about that. I'll start with Vertigo. So Vertigo, I hope you remember this sequence because it's the most memorable thing about if you remember nothing else about Vertigo, about 70 minutes into that film, Jimmy Stewart has an epiphany that goes animated. A bouquet of flowers goes into cartoon form and he's like, there's this whole trippy hallucinogenic dream sequence in which he starts to see that Carlotta is the woman that he's obsessing with, which is this now strange woman that's walking around the streets of San Francisco. Does that sound familiar?
Oh yeah, no, I remember the first time I watched Vertigo in college and like we were all laughing. We're like, this is the dumbest thing ever.
It is pretty laughable to modern sensibilities. And I think for modern sensibilities, suddenly watching a music video erupt in the middle of this thriller is going to be equally head-scratching, but I think they're designed to do the same thing. It's also worth pointing out that this is the year that that format took off, that I don't think we had it on our cable, MTV, until 1984. Suddenly that was offered and I was watching music videos all the time. Brian DePalma made some. He did not make Frankie Goes to Hollywood Relax, but he did make Bruce Springsteen's Dancing in the Dark, the one where he pulls Courtney Cox up on the stage. That's Brian DePalma.
Yeah, music videos were a thing. MTV started in 82, and I was watching that TBS Night Tracks music video show in 83, I remember. But this, I'm watching this in my home theater, and the way that they mixed this for the home release, Frankie Goes to Hollywood is loud and basserific, and I actually get a text from my wife who is like, when did the theater turn into a club? She wants to know exactly what's going on, that all of a sudden I'm not watching a movie for Now Playing anymore, but I'm blaring Frankie Goes to Hollywood and it's shaking the house.
Now, I love this sequence. You go back earlier to when Gloria saved Jake from the tunnel and it did that big romantic rear projection thing. This feels like the modern romance, like the dirty music video that's going to turn into a porno.
Yeah, the double, the duplicate. Everything we saw in the first half of the movie is repeating in the second half of the movie, only now it feels gross.
I mean, they make it explicit when he starts making out with Melanie Griffith. It's going to flash back and forth between Holly and Gloria.
And is that because that this nerdy guy can't let go of his fantasy? And even beyond death, he's trying to project it onto just some porn actress? Or is there reality to any of this?
That's how I read it.
Frankie Goes to Hollywood, I will say, I think another reason why we have that specifically is it was the most sexually graphic music video of its era. MTV wouldn't play the original video, because I don't know if you remember, but it had drag queens and bondage, gay, man-on-man stuff, and they just wouldn't go near that in 1984. They ended up cutting a new video with lasers and toned down, and that's what ran, but it was it's as close to porn as the music video art form got in 1984.
And thematically, I mean, it's kind of a song about edging, or at least pushing off that orgasm, and that's what Jake's always doing.
Yeah, seriously, there is a simulated electronic gush.
Yeah.
At the end of that song. That, again, I laugh because I listened to that song never getting any of that in 1984. I thought it just meant about chill out, relax, you know?
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Even Jake doesn't know what a cum shot is in this film, which blew my mind.
Yes, so we have this weird, not quite music video. It's neither of the real music videos that you could watch on MTV or were banned from MTV. It's Brian De Palma's version, in which you can see his cameraman in the mirror.
Yeah.
As Jake is now nerdy and not getting undressed. Supposedly he's auditioning for a porn shoot, but he's just kind of like necking her, like he's still the vampire.
Well, he says, I like to watch. I mean, they make it very explicit, like what this character's about.
Yeah, it's everyone else in the club. And Frankie Goes to Hollywood is there, like at the bar. And yeah, Holly is, we briefly see her from the rear. She's got a Holly Leaves tattooed on her butt. That's the first thing we see in the slut's bathroom.
Oh, is that what the tattoo was? I had no idea what that was.
Yeah. And I don't think we saw, that would be one thing if he had seen Gloria with the same butt tattoo and put it together. But I don't think they play it like that.
No, they don't.
I think he just knows her moves.
Which is why I'm wondering why he's projecting so much onto this porn actress.
Because he was so into that, because that was so fulfilling to watch that dance. Now, I don't know how Sam could have predicted that that would be so impactful for this actor. I wouldn't have thought, looking at Jake, that he was this internalized and fucked up, but he found the right guy to be his witness, that's for sure.
Well, this is him going off script. Up until the murder, Jake has done everything Sam wanted him to do. And then at the murder, Jake is supposed to go off on his merry way. The fact that he happens to see this Holly body dance routine on TV that night and then proceeds to become like an investigator. I love after the Frankie Goes to Hollywood porn shoot that he like slicks his hair back and puts on a leather coat and unbuttons his shirt almost to the navel.
Yeah, he looks like he's in the porn industry.
And he looks like a stereotypical producer.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wants to pretend that he's a porn producer just to find out if this woman's available to be hired out for jobs like the one that he witnessed. He's starting to put it together, and it's his obsessiveness over the dead woman that makes him see the connection, not that there's any real evidence of it. And that was also true in Vertigo. It's worth pointing out that Jimmy Stewart was just walking along, and the woman that had duped him into thinking that she had fallen off the bell tower was suddenly just there on the street. So that kind of random coincidence, it happens a lot in Hitchcock. You know, you could call it bad writing, but Hitchcock definitely did play into the melodramatic.
Yeah, there's going to be some coincidences later on, but I'm not complaining about them at this point.
No, and sometimes I actually like the random factor, like in Hitchcock, and sometimes I do consider it contrived and bad writing. And here, I'm just a little shocked that after just a couple of nights, Jake knows this dance so well as to be able to spot that this porno actress was doing it. He's ahead of me, because I didn't realize that it was the exact same dance. I didn't realize why he was going after Holly so hard for a while.
Was he orgasming looking through the telescope? They don't seem to indicate that. It almost feels like she's the only woman that's been able to pleasure him.
Yeah, I didn't get that. I didn't see him even breathing heavy, let alone coming.
It would have been great if, like, yeah, he really watered the plants hard after looking at her, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, again, that innuendo is all over the place. And that is Hitchcock innuendo. If you watch any Hitchcock movie, there are dirty jokes and innocuous things. He was a big fan of that. So that's not just Brian De Palma being sleazy. That is Brian De Palma imitating and exaggerating Hitchcock's sleaziness. But yes, Griffith explains no animal acts, no S&M, no water sports, no fist fucking, no shaving my pussy, and no coming in my face, and it's going to cost you $2,000 a day. So again, the guy that had to hire her had to have money. He didn't kill his wife for money. He had the money. He killed his wife because she was cheating. Again, that's my theory. And she follows him home because she either wants a job or she wants to hook up with this guy. Now, Craig Wasson is not our idea of a male pinup, but I do think that she has some lines saying that she finds him attractive. And I think for her, when she gets on that rotating bed, she wants action and he's still not able to deliver. That's when he starts confessing, I'm not a porn producer. I'm not going to screw you. I just want you to confirm that you were the girl that I was looking at.
Which was confusing to me because I thought he really did want to screw her. And this confession, I'm like, when did he suddenly become this noble guy who's not going to screw a woman under false pretenses after being this peeping Tom for so long?
He'll take any out to not actually have sex.
Yeah, I mean, even in his porn scene, in that music video sequence, he was not doing anything. It was everyone else that was. And again, I love that, like, she's on the spinning bed and she's like, we had one of these in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he did fuck her.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did. I mean, that's why they say, where's the cum shot? He fucked her during the music video. Absolutely he did.
No, he did. Absolutely he did not. Absolutely he did not. We did not see it.
I thought that was a joke that, yeah, he does not come.
No, the joke is that the director that's sitting there is reminded you need a cum shot because this is not Last Tango in Paris, which is, an art movie that is also very pornographic. And I think one of the things being commented on here, the meta commentary that DePalma is having fun doing, is calling out the hypocrisy of Hollywood. We have this other scene where this Hollywood actress is trying to find a role, and Holly sets her up to do this lesbian scene with her porn director.
That's a great scene. I was cracking up during that whole scene where, the woman thinks she's a legitimate actress and Holly Body thinks she's a porn actress. It's great.
Yeah, acting is acting. That's the line that gets said. And I think part of the doubling that we're talking about is that there's this world of legitimacy that Hollywood seems to think it's about. And then Brian De Palma wants to say, nope, there's no difference than you and a skin flick. You're all whores. This pretense that you have is false. I think that's all that the cum shot joke was meant to be. In no way, again, the guy is like necking with her. He's doing nothing at all sexually provocative with that actress in that scene.
I saw thrusting.
Not at all. Go look at it again. He is not having sex with her on camera. That did not happen. I'm not even sure the whole thing happened. The whole thing could have just been inside his head.
Yeah, that's how I took it. I don't know what's real at this point.
You shouldn't. You should not be able to comfortably say what has really happened and what is not. But this character, to me, is not someone that hooks up.
I thought he did on the set of a porno. I thought that was an actual porno being shot, and I thought, to get vulgar, he came inside of her, and that's why they didn't get their cum shot.
Look, to jump forward to the end, when she's accusing him of being a necrophiliac, I feel like, he's never fucked her because she's still alive, and, she has not experienced that with him yet.
It's also a Vertigo joke, because Vertigo...
No, I get that, but...
Yeah. Anyway, let's get to the climax, because she's not having it. If you're not going to have sex with me on this bed, and you don't have a role for me, and I'm not going to get my $2,000 a day, I'm out of here. And while she does confirm, she listens to the phone call from Sam, that's the guy, she's not into it. She's, leaving. And we have another inverse, another flip. They're being watched by Sam. Sam is there with binoculars inside Gloria's house, looking at the scene that's going on in the chemosphere.
So this is the weird coincidence, happenstance, whatever you want to call it, I don't understand this. Holly leaves, and I do laugh when she's trying to hitch a ride and people are just driving by her. But then, there's a car accident all of a sudden, and that's going to lead her into getting into the car with the Indian, and I don't know, that felt weird that you have this accident, that's going to set up this whole traffic jam chase thing.
I mean, I get your point, but it is Mulholland Drive.
I did take that into consideration, yes.
Plenty of car accidents, yes. And historically speaking, drag racing is known, the actors, Rando and all those guys were known for driving way too fast.
And that's what I'm wondering. Is there some classic film? I'm just not getting the reference. It just seemed out of the blue to have this car accident all of a sudden.
I think it's pretty common.
Meanwhile, in retrospect, when I'm thinking about this movie after, I'm wondering why Sam bothered to put on the makeup to look like the Indian again. She said that she didn't meet the guy who hired her. She just knew his voice. So I don't know why he's having to disguise himself here at the end, except for us, the audience.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
But I do like how this plays out. Every time that Jake is trying to inform the cops, hey, something bad's going on, they just ignore him because he's so hysterical. They just pay attention to him. And you see, Sam swinging that crowbar, hitting Holly over the head, but the cops are not paying attention to that.
And maybe that's why he wears the Indian getup, is that anytime I kill, I want to pin it on this phantom, this thing that doesn't really exist, because I want to be able to go back and be Alexander Revell or Sam Bouchard, whoever. Not sure who the real him is, but yes, he's got this Indian as his culprit, his fall guy.
But was he even planning to kill at this point? Did he know he had to kill Holly, I guess, because Jake had talked to Holly?
I mean, he'd been looking through the binoculars. She was leaving. He obviously went to go pick her up. So I think he was getting rid of her. A loose end, She can testify to having been hired to beat Gloria for a certain amount of time. If, in fact, Jake gets to the cops and tells his story, it could be bad for Sam. Yeah, I think he had to kill them both. And maybe he knows Jake will follow. I'm not really sure because, again, so much about this ending is melodramatic and hysterical and subjective. What is real here? I don't know.
Is this all Jake just standing in that method acting class, like visualizing how he's going to be able to act as a vampire?
I think when I originally saw this, I thought the whole movie was a dream and he was just fell asleep while playing the vampire. I think that was my interpretation.
When we cut back to that vampire role, like, I'm thrown in such a loop. Like,
yeah,
is this all a flashback? Has this all been in his head so he could act? But he's not dressed up as the vampire when we flash back to that scene.
Yeah, I think you can interpret it lots of different ways. Again, projection is the whole idea here. What you see is not what someone else sees. But I think, if I can say this, I think Brian DePalma is trying to get back at the idea that this person is learning from his mistakes and is finally taking action. He is finally getting over his claustrophobia and is finally going to be able to perform, literally, and save this woman's life. It's a happy ending, which is strange because that's not the story of Vertigo, but it is the story of Rear Window. They didn't save the wife, but they did save Grace Kelly.
I was not expecting a Scooby-Doo ending, though. I was not expecting a mask reveal and be like, Sam!
I don't know how you couldn't, particularly since De Palma did it in Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise, ripping the masks off. I mean, that just is something he does.
Yeah, at this point, I was just waiting for it to be ripped off.
Yeah, it's so obviously a fake. And who is the person doing all of this, even if you didn't know?
I mean, it's Sam, obviously. Come on.
Yeah.
I figured Sam hired the Indian.
So up until this point, you were still didn't think it was Sam.
Once she says it was Sam, I say, okay, so Sam's the husband. He hired the Indian as an assassin.
Yeah, and I think that is where De Palma's trying to lead you, and then you're shocked that it isn't, but I think it plays either way. What I'm going to say is, if you're appreciating this as a comedy or a parody of Hitchcock, then whether you know or not, the big surprise doesn't make a whit of difference. It's still hilariously over the top. Yeah, as this whole thing, I'm going to dig a grave by the reservoir right there. I mean, all of this is just so silly, but it's, it's bookending. It's bringing us back to the beginning of the movie and showing the parallels about being in the grave, how he was frozen in that moment as an actor and, as a sexual partner as well. And here he's finally going to be able to pull himself out of that hole and fight this guy. Although they kind of cheat, right? They give it to the dog to defeat Sam.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. The dog jumps out and just pushes him into the water. And that's why I don't think any of this is real. The body just disappears.
I accept that as a reading. Maybe none of this is true, and maybe he just finally came on himself while looking through the telescope. I don't know.
Yeah, it is a really blue-balling ending that the dog gets the victory.
Again, it is a comedy ending. Can't miss it, really, when a bat on a string comes flying into the shower and poof.
To a score that sounds like the Psycho shower scene music.
Yeah. Now Jake gets to do that scene. He was kicked off the project and the other guy was filming that. And here, ironically, he's ready for action and the director is telling him, freeze. We need to bring in the body double.
Stuart, explain this. What is this bar? They keep yelling at Jake for don't move the bar. I do love how just technical this gets at the end. Again, demystify Hollywood, strip all that away. I guess that to help line up the shot or something.
Yeah. Again, we're getting a very close-up shot of breasts and blood. And this is the legitimate movie, right? This is the Hollywood thing. That's not at all like that porn industry. Again, it's a De Palma joke.
It's a strange end credits to just run them over the bloody tits.
I love it.
But that is, again, if you're tapped into the commentary, the subtext of what's going on, that feels like a summation. That here was Hollywood claiming it was this married woman, rich and pristine, needs to be saved. And in the end, just a whore with big tits, blood all over it.
So Jacob, Stewart, do you recommend Body Double? Jacob.
I'll be interested to hear everyone's final opinions on this because I feel like we've talked about in Now Playing, we try to come with different perspectives. Sometimes you have a newbie and someone who's a seasoned vet in the franchise. And I feel like just in our relationship with movies, we all have different perspectives. Obviously, Stuart worked in the film industry and went to film school. Arnie is a lover of movies, so many movies, probably seen the most out of all of us. And my relationship, being in Southern California, LA native, growing up here, you just have a different take. And then having connections, like you just have tangential connections to the industry, even if you're not in it. And I feel like if you're born here, like I knew a kid, he was in a pretty popular sitcom in the 90s. He was a child actor at our school, but he seemed very lonely. Like no one ever like hung out with him when he did come to school, but like you would just have interactions like that. And I feel, yeah, when something is more cynical about Hollywood, I just respond better because that is my experience seeing the behind the scenes stuff, knowing people in the industry and hearing stories. It's just a different view of maybe someone that just sees the big high budget pictures in the movie theater. And so De Palma, when he does this kind of takedown of Hollywood, I respond really strongly. That was part of my love of Blowout that he did previously in 1981, which had a very similar message. Like, can art really do anything? Can it really bring any truth about or save anyone? And yeah, I don't know what this movie is literally about. To me, this is a very metaphorical film you engage on in an emotional level. And that's how it really worked with me. Like seeing this voyeur, and yeah, he's always impotent and frozen and can never really do anything. And like his seediness just goes all the way down to the porn industry. And then De Palma's drawing connections about how that's just like Hollywood. Like it's a messy film. And yeah, I love the way he remixes Hitchcock with Vertigo and Rear Window. Like I like just the idea of this film, I think maybe more than the bolts and pieces. Like again, I can't tell you what this movie is really about, but it takes me through an emotional journey that hits me with hitting on themes of, yeah, like do we project our image onto people or do we accept them how they are? Like there's a lot of interesting ideas there. So just don't go in for a literal murder mystery. Like I think that's the wrong way to approach this film. But yeah, this was impressive. It's a solid recommend for me.
Stuart.
Yeah, if you want a good thriller, stick with Rear Window, right?
Yes.
If you want something that's classic and well constructed and guides you through a whole experience while having cool subtext and all of that. I mean, I definitely can see why Body Double was hated at its time. Audiences didn't get the references, and critics that did thought he was plagiarizing. As a fan of horror slashers, when I saw it as a teenager, I had no context for Hitchcock. And yeah, I just believed that De Palma had taken something classy and turned it into something sleazy. And
I mean, he did.
Yeah, that's kind of what I enjoy about it, is that as a meta experience, it's kind of fun watching him take Hitchcock. You know, Lynch did this too. You know, Blue Velvet is a Hitchcock movie that's very sleazy. Lost Highway, I feel like, is a twin of this movie in a lot of ways. Like, yeah, there's something very satisfying watching a new generation pick up on what Hitchcock did, the classics, and then bend them. So I think you have to have that knowledge. I guess what I'm really saying is, to truly enjoy this movie, I think you have to have some frame of reference about film history, not only Hitchcock's movies, but I would also argue the Italian, you know, the whole genre of giallo that cropped up in the 1970s, where Argento and Bava kind of took the techniques of Hitchcock's camera work and then married it with slasher gore, you know, really helped foundationally find the slasher genre. This is an American giallo movie. That's what this is. It is absurd and melodramatic, and I don't think works a whit as an actual thriller. So if you want, again, thrills, see Rear Window. But if you want to laugh and you want to have a lot of interesting discussion, deconstruction about all of it, Hitchcock, the movies, yeah, the legitimate film industry versus the porn industry, to me, this is a better parody than what Mel Brooks did in High Anxiety. If I want to laugh about Hitchcock, to me, this is the comedy to go to. So I say a funny spoof that I surprisingly enjoyed. And now playing is constantly teaching me I don't hate De Palma. Every time we cover his movies, Carrie, Untouchables, Scarface, Mission Impossible, Dressed to Kill, and now Body Double, they're all recommends.
And I saw a totally different movie than Stuart did. I laughed a little bit during this, but I didn't see this as a parody. I still like High Anxiety as a parody of Hitchcock. The newspaper scene will never not make me laugh. If you've seen the movie, if you know, you know.
I know, yeah. I'm not saying I hated it. I'm just saying this movie's funnier, smarter.
I didn't laugh during this movie. I didn't see this movie as a parody. I saw this movie as an homage to two great Hitchcock films. And on that level, as a straight thriller, it kind of works. You say it doesn't work a whit, Stuart. To me, the second hour of it, when it gets really surreal and strange, works better than that first hour where it feels pretty rote. And again, you know what's coming if you've seen virtually any movie, let alone the three we're reviewing here these 3 weeks. And so, you know, as a straight thriller with a ending that I didn't see coming, that end twist of this unmasking. He would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you, damn actor. I can give this a weak recommend. It's no Rear Window, but I definitely can say it was an enjoyable watch. And check it out if you haven't.
Yeah, it's a conversation starter for sure. I definitely think I really enjoyed processing this movie with you guys.
Yes.
Because you leave the movie just going, what did I see? How much of that was even intentionally serious? It sounds like a real debatable amount. And we've enjoyed it as thriller and comedy.
So, Ole, where did you land on this? When you saw the movie, do you remember? Did you know it was Sam? Did you take it as a comedy?
I've been dying to know this if Ole figured it out.
So I think the reason why I was disappointed by it the first time I saw it was because I was expecting a mystery thriller, and I just didn't really like Craig Wasson. I thought he was, a pervert and a creep, and I don't know, it was just a weird movie. So I think it's a much harder movie to go in cold on. And I rewatched it now before this episode, and I saw it much more as a comedy. I was laughing a lot too during this movie. What I did remember though was that Sam was the killer, and knowing that he's the killer, it's much easier to sort of see his face under the makeup. So yeah, but I did enjoy it a lot more watching it this time.
Here's the thing is like DePalma has skills, and even if they are Hitchcock skills, he's mastered the master. Like he can put together cool sequences. So I think kind of like Giallos, you saw Deep Red, Arnie. So like these silly thrillers that are so melodramatic, they still have these sequences that are so cool that I don't know, you can endorse them as thrillers or you can endorse them as parodies. They kind of live in both worlds to me. And that's kind of why I call Body Double a Giallo, is that it feels like both homage and a parody of a Hitchcock movie, of Rear Window.
But Ole, you have one more movie in store for us, one more Rear Window ripoff or homage, coming over 20 years after Body Double, the Shia LaBeouf film Disturbia, which I have seen before.
Not me. This is new to me.
I haven't seen it either.
I remember the trailers. Obviously, I recognize the similarities between... He's under house arrest.
Isn't he like looking through binoculars on the movie poster? They make it pretty obvious.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what? I like Shia LaBeouf. I'm not afraid to say I think he's turned into quite a good actor.
As long as it's not a Transformers film, he's good.
Yeah, I'll give this one a shot. I'm curious to see how much they replicate and if they go their own path. It looks less weird and sleazy than Body Double, at the very least.
Yeah, I expect it to be much more commercial.
So, Ole, thank you so much for your support of our show. Thank you for coming on the show and joining us for this review. It's always a joy to have you on. You're pulling good movies. 2 movies so far, 6 recommends. We'll see if we can do 9 for 3 next week.
And if you want more sleazy thrillers, I will just point out, February patrons, this is your month for sleazy thrillers. We just covered the Madonna movie, Body of Evidence, and that is something to talk about. I hope you can join us for that show. It just premiered last Friday, and this Friday, we're back to Buddy Cops. We got Running Scared.
Yes, so the patron shows, if you're a patron on Podbean, Apple, Spotify, or Patreon of $10 or more, we have over 80 bonus reviews for you. It's a tremendous bargain. Somebody actually emailed us and said they felt bad because they became a patron and they're not able to stay a patron, but they're getting 80 shows in 1 month and are listening. I say,
they got to binge hard.
It's the best bargain in podcasting is to be a $10 patron for us and get those 80 full in-depth movie reviews like we do. And then Running Scared is in our gold level, not available on Apple, not available on Spotify. They just don't offer the tiers. But if you're on Podbean, Patreon, or do a direct donation to us of $25 or more, you get the Home Alone series we did at the end of last year, the Beverly Hills Cop trilogy we finished up a couple weeks ago, and then Buddy Cop movies for the next several weeks, starting with Running Scared, and then we have Stakeout and Turner and Hooch, and of course, everybody's favorite, best movie of all time, Tango and Cash.
That's the way I remember it.
So thank you so much to everyone who supports our show. It's supporters like Ole and like you who make it possible for us to keep doing this show we do every single Tuesday. Haven't missed a week since 2011. So thank you so much for your support. And until next time, that is it. End of part.
Class is out. Come on, Jake, let's go.
Thank you for listening to this Now Playing Podcast movie review. We hope you enjoyed the show.
You were perfect. Played it to a T.
And a special thank you to Ule Horve for his amazing support of Now Playing and for picking Body Double for our hosts to review.
This looks like a mind fuck to me.
Help us spread the word about this show by leaving a 5-star review on Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes, or your podcast store of choice.
Hustler Magazine gives it Hustler's highest rating.
Want more reviews like this one? In the archives section of NowPlayingPodcast.com, you'll find more than 1,000 in-depth movie reviews from our panel of hosts.
Do you have Holly Does Hollywood?
And come back to NowPlayingPodcast.com next Tuesday for another all-new movie review podcast.
Just like clockwork.
Support from listeners like you keeps Now Playing Podcast on the air. You can donate directly by tapping the support button at NowPlayingPodcast.com.
I am not a film producer, and I am not a rich kid.
And you can join our crowdfunding campaign for early access to new episodes, exclusive reviews, and bonus reviews.
Vampire's Kiss. Sounds interesting.
Now Playing Podcast is produced and edited by Arnie Carvalho.
I'm known far and wide for that little bit of business.
Associate produced by Jason Latham.
I got a reputation in this business.
Now Playing credits read by Brock.
I've got to talk to someone.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual hosts and may not reflect the views of Venganza Media Incorporated.
I understand you're sick and you're a liar and you need professional help.
Venganza Media Incorporated is not affiliated with, and this podcast has not been prepared, approved, or licensed by any entity that created the film analyzed herein. All movie clips and music included in this podcast are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders. They are included here for the purpose of review and no infringement is intended.
It's no big thing.
Now Playing Podcast is an exclusive trademark of and may not be used without the express written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated. Now Playing is a Venganza Media production, copyright 2024, and no part of this show may be reproduced, repurposed, or redistributed without the written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated. All rights reserved.
This is called an exit.